A Deathwatch army list has won the Las Vegas Open with 10 wins and no losses. That is a very long tournament. We will be looking over the winning Deathwatch list to see why it is so good and what it can do. Not every tactic came up in the final game that was streamed, but I will explain the greatness of the list and the Deathwatch in their current form. The Deathwatch have been on quite a journey. The first index was pretty good, then it changed, then we became Imperial Agents, and we had a new index with no Proteus kill team, my reliable unit, and instead revamped all the kill teams with new weapons and profiles and abilities. I haven't been doing as well with Deathwatch as before, and it feels like tournament season, as the armies I faced have all been very similar to ones appearing at events like LVO. Space Marines have a new ability. Generic Space Marines with no additional chapter keyword like Dark Angels or Blood Angels, they are able to add +1 to wound rolls on their Oath of Moment target, and that is so very strong. Ultramarines are the go-to chapter because they are not considered a bonus chapter keyword, and they have Rebute Gilliman, who can plop down a second Oath of Moment target, which becomes the Oath of Moment target if you kill the first one. Very handy for cleaning up small irritating enemy units and getting onto the main target. Especially when you got +1 to wound on both of them. And I've faced Tau tournament lists. With Tau Kauyon, like, oh, here are my turn 3 reserves. They are guided, everything is sustained hits too. And the Tau Auxiliary Cadger is very strong. Extra AP on your Kroot without having to have 2 or more units target the same enemy like in the Kroot Hunting Pack. Advancing and charging Kroot Rampages. Vespids or Kroot units with full rerolls to wound. There are Kroot Hounds looking at you very close, and now all the Tau shooting gets extra AP before you can say, bad dog, go away. I have played the Black Spear Task Force 4 times since the Index 2 Return of the Deathwatch was released. I have been somewhat taken up with Final Day and Champions of the Faith this last month. The Indomitor Kill Team is the standout unit. It is really a must if you want to play Black Spear Task Force, a shooting-focused detachment. A Spectre's Kill Team is very good if you add a Librarian. Then the unit has Lone Operative, Stealth, Infiltrate, Scout, it can go up and down, and with an Instigator Bolt Rifle it can move after shooting. They're a pain to shoot, a pain to get close to and charge, and if you can keep them alive for the final turns of the game, their built-in ability to leave and come back without using site-to-site teleportation lets them move around the board incredibly quickly. I was able to kill a few 3-wound Tau characters with their precision attacks. The Fortis Kill Team got a big improvement over their previous version and finally got a fix to their chainsword so it hits on a 3+. As much as I love the Strength 5 AP -2 bolters and taking Desolation missile launchers and an Infernus Flamer and calling it a tactical squad, the Veteran Kill Team is better for the same points. They are versatile in their weapon loadout, good at shooting, great in combat, and you can have them as a squad of 5 or 10 models, and their unit ability is always going to come up. Unless they happen to be attacking the Oath of Moment target, then they will get full rerolls anyway. The Fortis Kill Team is still a cleanup unit that targets damaged enemies. If this could be a squad of 5, I would be happy, even if they only had bolters. But it is a lot of power and points to spend finishing something off. You can get close, throw a grenade for 1 command point to cause a casualty and reduce the enemy below starting strength to get +1 to hit, but that depends if you have command points to spare. And the list we're going to be looking at had command points to spare, but no Fortis Kill Team. This is the list that won. A Space Marine Captain in Gravis armor with a Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt Rifle, Mastercrafted Power Weapon, and the Tome of Ectoclides enhancement. This is a shooting detachment, they are in a shooting unit, so they pick the shooting weapon. If you wanted to go close combat and have the Power Fist, then you may consider having the Thief of Secrets instead of the Tome of Ectoclides. But the Heavy Bolt Rifle is currently damage 3. They join the Indomitor Kill Team. The Tome of Ectoclides gives you 1 additional Oath of Moment target once per game for those non-Veteran Kill Team units that need the rerolls, because Veteran Kill Teams already reroll hit rolls of 1 or all hit rolls versus Xenos factions, identified as not having the Imperium or Chaos keyword. When you have lethals or sustained hits, especially sustained hits 2 on the Assault Bolters of the Talon Strike Kill Team, rerolling to fish for 6s can give you a massive damage boost. And you don't have to use the Tome of Ectoclides on a unit you can see. You don't even need to be on the battlefield when you use it, which is a change from Index version 1 that not many people had noticed. Index 2 isn't wholly cut and paste. It is possible to have a better version of the Oath of Moment with +1 to wound and the Tome of Ectoclides for 2 lots of rerolling hit rolls and +1 to wound, You use the Black Spear task force, but it is the inclusion of any units with the Deathwatch keyword that stops the better version of Oath of Moment working. Your army would be very limited in what it could do. There would be no special ammunition, no mission tactics detachment rule, unless you spent 1 command point on adaptive tactics for a generic Space Marine unit. But you would have site-to-site teleportation, and if you didn't plan on using captains for bonus command points and use more lieutenants and apothecary biologus for lethals, it can work. But the stratagems support a shooting army, and you can shenanigan the command points. There is a captain and a watchmaster in this army list. Both of them can use their ability to reduce the cost of command points. If you had another captain, like there was a captain in the Talon Strike kill team, they would have the same Rites of Battle ability, and you can only use 1 Rites of Battle ability per battle round. The Watchmasters has a different name, so you can use both abilities. That means free Kraken rounds, free Armor of Contempt, or free Adaptive Tactics, which benefits 2 kill teams, now for free, to keep giving you sustained hits after the turn you've used sustained hits. So 3 of your units can have a bonus from stratagems and you haven't spent any command points yet. You usually pick sustained hits as lots of attacks have lethal hits already in the Deathwatch army. Or you use site-to-site teleportation to go back into reserves with the Indomitable kill team and be ready to pop out and strike again. Both this list and the runner-up, an Ultramarines Vanguard Spearhead, have ways of making slow shooting units leave the board and arrive again to unleash their shooting attacks. I am not saying Centurions are good, Paul, but if your name was Paul and you were considered bad at stuff, this is a way of causing more damage where you need it. He already knew that. But rapid ingress of your own unit is a counter. Much easier with the Genestealer Cult. I faced a list almost identical to the runner-up Vanguard Ultramarine Detachment, which went 9-1 in the LVO tournament, and when using my Genestealer Cult, I threw Acolytes at them, which prevents them from leaving and coming back. Centurions are not so good in combat, so can be tied up with a disposable unit. The Judicia in the unit has Thief of Secrets. They have Thief of Secrets to boost their strength. If you were using the Gladius Task Force, you would use the Honor Vermint. You get to Strength 8 with your attacks, which is wonderful when everyone is playing Space Marines. It is a Space Marine meta. Now you wound on 2s. With that power and precision, you can kill quite a lot of characters, even the Space Marine characters which have more wounds and invulnerable saves than the average Tau 3-wound Kroot character. And the Judicia gives you fight first. Heavy Deathwatch hammers mean nothing if they don't get to swing. So it's great to have the Judicia with 5 veterans. They can take an objective and then defend it if they're not in line of sight. If they're not going to get shot, they have to be charged, then they fight first. That objective would want to be the target of the Lieutenant with Combi Bolter's special ability. Then you reroll wound rolls of 1 when attacking an enemy on that objective marker. So the devastating wounds of the Judicia's attacks are more likely to come up, same as the heavy thunder hammers of the Deathwatch and the Xenophase Blade on the Sergeant. The Lieutenant with Combi Bolter can then complete actions, and they can reactive move away from enemies. They are lone operative, they are hard to pin down, hard to stop, they can keep scoring victory points. The Watchmaster would go with a squad of 10 veterans in a Rhino. Because of his ability to advance and charge, you can get out of a Rhino, move really quickly, charge the enemy, and deliver a lot of destruction wherever it is needed. And you can shoot on the way after advancing. The 10 veterans have a mix of weapons, some combat, some shooting to do both, and while you want the Thunder Hammers, Frag Cannons and Infernus Heavy Bolters can use special ammunition, and the Frag Cannon likes the Kraken rounds. You have more shots if within half range, which is extended with the Kraken rounds, and it improves the armor penetration. If it is free with the Watchmaster ability, let's go! So the first big squad of Deathwatch veterans has a Sergeant with a shield and Xenophase Blade, a Marine with a shield and power weapon, 4 Deathwatch Thunderhammers, 2 Frag Cannons, and 2 Infernus Heavy Bolters. Then there are 2 squads of 5 Deathwatch veterans, each the same. The Sergeant has a shield and Xenophase Blade, 2 Deathwatch Thunderhammers, 1 Frag Cannon, and an Infernus Heavy Bolter. So the squad of 10 is basically 2 lots of the squad of 5. These all stay safe within a Rhino. Deathwatch veterans do not like being shot. And because you can disembark 3 inches out from the transport, that is giving you additional range. So one Rhino takes a squad of 10 and the Watchmaster, the other Rhino takes the 2 squads of 5, one of them has the Judicia. Having 2 squads in a Rhino means one squad could get out where needed, another squad could stay inside and then hold an objective later. There are 2 Deathwatch Terminator squads, Each of them is the same, they have 3 Cyclone missile launchers, and everyone has Power Fists and Stormbolters. I like to have 1 or 2 with shields and thunderhammers so that damage 3 weapons don't instantly kill a Terminator. We see in this army that there are quite a lot of damage 3 weapons. But this is a shooting detachment, so more Stormbolters can be better with special ammunition, and Power Fist hit on a 3+ compared to the Chain Fists and Thunderhammers 4+. There is no Proteus kill team anymore to get +1 to hit. Well, not in this army. They are Legends, Agents of the Imperium unit, and can't be taken if you have any Space Marine Deathwatch units in your army. The Terminators are a good unit that can do well in the fight phase, and they're likely to succeed a charge even from reserves, with a reroll to their charge roll built in without needing a captain in Terminator armor. Then the enemy takes a battle shock test after they charge. They are very cheap compared to other Terminators, and may well get a points increase come March. You can do a lot of shooting with the frag missiles from their Cyclone missile launchers, and those shots alongside rapid-fire Stormbolters, with Hellfire shells to wound infantry on a 2+. If you wound enough times, you can kill a lot of 3+ save Space Marines. The Talon Strike kill team is, as you'd expect, 5 big fellows, 5 slightly smaller fellows. This list has Assault Bolters instead of the plasma weapons. You can do some shenanigans with the current version of the Hazardous rule, where you take failed Hazardous tests on the Marines with plasma pistols. And those plasma pistols don't have to have been overcharged. You take the wounds on a model that has a weapon that has the Hazardous keyword. It doesn't seem fair, but it's an exploit you can use. The Talon Strike kill team is really good at killing Space Marines because of all those damage 2 shots from the Assault Bolters. This is a Space Marine meta. With sustained hits 2 and rerolls from you get a lot of successful hits. The improvement to Oath of Moment has brought out a lot of Space Marine players, and unlike when there's a change to Genestealer Cult or Drukhari to improve them, not many people have those armies. But everyone and their cousin and their cousin's flatmate and their cousin's flatmate's goldfish have Space Marine units. The Stormspeeder Thunderstrike is a speedy, annoying tank that flies. It has decent weapons for annoying tanks, but its main thing is the Thunderstrike ability as a force multiplier for this army. Each time it's shot, you pick an enemy or vehicle that was hit by 1 or more of its attacks, and then other ranged attacks that attack that same target get +1 to wound. If you had plasma weapons in a Talon Strike kill team, they are now wounding on a 4+. But it makes the Indomitor kill team's life so much easier. The melter weapons of the Indomitor kill team, if they're going for the closest target, is strength 11, so they're going to be wounding most tanks and vehicles on a 3+. That now becomes a 2+. And the heavy bolt rifles and heavy bolters of that squad now wound on a 4+. These are high damage attacks. Enemy tanks are not going to survive. Naturally, when selecting models for your kill teams, you want to go with the most optimized version. 4 kill team heavy intercessors, 2 with heavy bolt rifle, 2 with heavy bolter, because the heavy bolter is 1 heavy bolter per 5 models. 3 heavy intercessors with power fists and flamestorm gauntlets, 2 heavy intercessors with melter rifle, and 1 with a multi-melter. I was a bit surprised by the flamestorm gauntlets. Sometimes it's the model the player has, but they can't get sustained hits or lethal hits with this detachment, which is what it's all about, and you get more shots with the Auto Bolt Storm Gauntlets and the Fragstorm Grenade Launcher instead of the Flamestorm Gauntlets. But the Flamers can give you an unpleasant overwatch, which is its strength 6, assuming you're shooting the closest target. The Indomitor kill team is likely to go up in points. 270 points for this is a little bit too optimized. I'm not expecting a massive amount of changes to Deathwatch in the March balance patch, but a points increase on the Indomitor kill team will probably be one of them. For their tactics, you can get into melter range from Deep Strike with the Kraken rounds. It increases the range of their weapons. Now half range is 12 inches, not 9 inches, so you will be in melter range. And this is a unit to start on the table, because you want to have them arrive by Deep Strike. So you use site-to-site teleportation. The unit goes in reserves and gains Deep Strike. You can Deep Strike on turn 1, but not if you started the game in reserves. This also applies to units redeployed into reserves with abilities like the Primus, but it doesn't apply to units that started the game on the table. So if you go second, the Indomitor kill team uses site-to-site teleportation at the end of your opponent's first turn and lands in your first turn ready to strike. And shooting doesn't care about screening units. If there is another unit between you and your target, you can shoot that target behind if you can see them. With a strong first or second turn, you can wipe out the best units in your opponent's army, preventing them from hurting your biggest kill teams, and then you just keep rolling on through. This is what happened in the final tournament battle, which led it to be a bit anticlimactic. This army has a lot of damage output, a lot of movement, a lot of command points, a lot to play with in the hands of a skilled player. Focus mainly on the primary missions, on killing the enemy, and then the smaller units like the veterans and even the terminators can complete secondary missions, while the 3 big kill teams keep the enemy down. My Deathwatch have been doing more average, 50% win rate. I've had 4 games with the Black Spear Task Force, 1 with the Librarius Conclave, and 1 with the Gladius Task Force. My playstyle and collection suits Gladius better as it's more combat focused. I have a lot more Deathwatch veterans. I can use the Honor Vehement instead of the Thief of Secrets on the Judicia to get that bonus strength to get to strength 8. I get army-wide Advance and Charge, and army-wide Fall Back and Shoot and Charge, and can have either on a unit when I need it with Adaptive Strategy. In the Black Spear Task Force, you need at least 1 Indomitor kill team to make your army work, and I do miss the Proteus kill team. I don't have enough big lads to make the most effective Toughness 6 Talon Strike kill team, so unless I proxy Gravis models on foot, they don't make my list. I am not going to buy more models to suit the current tournament meta. Nor do I expect you to. I want you to buy models you like that you will enjoy painting and building and look cool on the table, not to see on the shelf 9 months from now and vaguely remember that they were good for about 2 weeks, but you can't quite remember why. And buy your models at a discount. I have affiliates. They are linked in the description. They give you discounted models compared to going through Games Workshop, and it funds me to make videos for you at the same time. The Librarius Conclave is fun. It has shenanigans, but requires you to be in the right discipline to get the most from it, and unlike the Black Spear Task Force or the Gladius Detachment, you can't switch a unit to a different discipline. And you need a lot of Librarians, obviously. But that feels like a points tax to get the detachment to work. A Spectre's kill team led by a Librarian is great, and in a Spectre's kill team, characters that join gain Infiltrators and Scout. That's an advantage over the generic Space Marine ones that the Librarian could join. Terminators led by a Librarian feels a bit expensive. A Fortis kill team led by a Librarian gives a 4+ invulnerable save, but what we are seeing lots of when you are Marines is weight of fire at AP 0 or AP -1. So the 4+ invuln save doesn't come into it. And against that one enemy unit that throws out AP 2, we have Armor of Contempt. The Librarius Conclave, but with Ultramarines, won the New Year's knockout at the Keep 40k tournament. Chief Librarian Tigurius was the leader. He has a very powerful shooting attack, his unit is -1 to hit, and you can use several stratagems for free, including counter-offensive, which is normally 2 command points, which allows your unit to fight next after an opponent's unit that is charged. Because this is Ultramarines and not Deathwatch or Blood Angels, you get the better Oath of Moment, and Stern Guard can be incredibly powerful in the Librarius detachment, but in any generic Space Marine army. They are rerolling all hit rolls and all wound rolls against the target of and have devastating wounds, which is super strong when combined together. Enough about the men in power armor. What about the women in power armor? At the LVO tournament, the Adepta Sororitas were not in the top 16. Their win rate now fluctuates in percentage from the high 30s to the mid 40s. All the detachments are workable in a tournament setting, but with the big changes to Bringers of Flame, increasing the cost of its stratagems and reducing its effective range of increased strength from 12 inches to 6 inches, the detachment that was bringing the win rate up for the Sisters isn't looking as favourable competitively. The reduction in Miracle Dice is a sore spot. If you have played with your Adepta Sororitas since the change, you do have to up your game quite a bit, but it's not the worst possible thing. Rolling piles of near-worthless Miracle Dice were the worst thing. I encourage you to play with your Sisters instead of seeing one nerf and putting them away. But if you want to win a tournament with the Adepta Sororitas, it is harder than before, but still possible. We had a good Hallowed Martyrs list from 2 weeks ago which got 2nd place in a tournament. It looks like a fairly standard Sisters tournament list. We have Morven Val with 3 Paragon Warsuits, as always. There are 2 Canonesses and 1 could go alone to be an action monkey, someone to complete secondary missions. They are hard to kill, They have a 2+ invulnerable save once per game, and with Saintly Example, they generate miracle dice on death. And you can bring them back. And then they'll generate more miracle dice again the next time they die. It relies on the enemy attacking you, but if they don't, you keep scoring victory points and they are more important than miracle dice. It could be the Canoness with the Mantle of Ophelia that goes alone. They could both go alone. Or you could put one of them with the Celestian Sacrosancts. The alternative is what to do with the Palatine. They could be with the Celestian Sacrosancts. The Celestian Sacrosancts had halberds, so the Palatine giving them lethal hits would mean they have sustained hits and lethal hits. With Through Suffering Strength, the Palatine is a combat beast. We want her in combat. Alternatively, the Palatine could join a small squad of Novitiates. Then she will reroll hit rolls of 1, which makes it more likely that she will get more wounds through, which means more mortal wounds as per her ability. The 2 Immolators split the Battle Sisters and the Novitiates, so you have 4 units for the price of 2. 5 Battle Sisters hold the home objective, they generate miracle dice. The other 5 go in an Immolator, get out, and use their melter weapons on whatever they can. 3 Arcoflagellants could hold the next objective. 10 Arcoflagellants can get in the way, and we have some very good combat stratagems in the Hallowed Martyrs. You can fight on death, you can reroll all hit rolls, and the Castigators provide support for each other and the Immolators when it comes to shooting. With the current points, Castigators have fallen out of favour with me compared to having an Armiger Warglaive. But in the Hallowed Martyrs detachment, as soon as a Castigator takes any amount of damage, they are +1 to hit. The Hallowed Martyrs is a very useful detachment for going, hey, well, I've taken some damage, suddenly I'm better. I can not only do comebacks, I can really come back. And that includes getting Morven Val back up for another go. What I'm not sure about with this army list is where Gwen Godfrey put their characters. I haven't been able to find any after-action reports. There is also Junith Eruita in the army list. She could stay on the home objective with 5 Battle Sisters, she could stay on an objective by herself out of line of sight and generate command points, or she could join the Celestian Sacrosancts, as long as they are supervised, which means they get their -1 to be wounded ability. Hallowed Martyrs seems to be performing the best. The Army of Faith gives you more miracle dice, but it is so hungry for miracle dice and command points it's hard to keep up. The Hallowed Martyrs at least has enhancements that give you more miracle dice, without requiring more miracle dice to function. Bringers of Flame is still really fast for moving your units around the board, but when you get there you have to get so very close, closer than in the Firestorm Assault Force, before you get that +1 strength, which is the tipping point that Sisters need to turn Strength 4 into Strength 5, so that you can often get +1 to wound against enemies. The Penitent Host is fragile, and I don't want to use the Penitent Host without the Triumph, but the Triumph no longer gives you an additional miracle dice, it changes your miracle dice into a 6, which is okay, but it's so very expensive. The Champions of Faith can work if you like Paragon Warsuits, but the requirement to keep feeding it miracle dice can be a struggle at times. You can see my full playtested review of that detachment. With these tournament results, I believe we're hoping that the Adepta Sororitas get some generous take-backsies of some of the changes to their rules. I don't think it was necessary to change it so that we only get a miracle dice when our units die within the phase. So 3 units die in the shooting phase, you get 1 miracle dice. Previously, it was 1 miracle dice per unit. It scaled very well with the size of the game. I don't like that the Exorcist keeps going up in points, and I don't like that the Triumph went up so many points, had its ability made worse, and remains at 250 points. And while I'm okay with the changes to the stratagem cost in the Bringers of Flame detachment, changing the detachment rule to be 6 inches instead of 12 inches, which is what the Space Marines get, is much more difficult. If it was 9 inches, just to stop Seraphim from using it after Deep Strike, I would be okay with that. Then you're not going nose to nose with your opponent to get an increase in strength. The Genestealer Cult are doing better than the Adepta Sororitas. Part of that is our friend Floof. I've talked to him before on the channel, and we talked about having lots and lots of neophytes. He got really far in the tournament, was in the top 16, and was the top performing Genestealer Cult player. I like his army list. There are 5 units of 20 neophytes and 1 unit of 10 neophytes. 3 of the neophyte squads have a Benefactus, so they always have lethal hits, and this is the Host of Ascension, so when you come from reserves, you also get sustained hits. 1 of the units of neophytes has a Primus, so you fully reroll hit rolls. And of course the Primus has a chink in their armor, which means that when you come from reserve, you get lethal hits. So that's lethal hits, sustained hits, and full rerolls to hit on a lot of shots. To complement the neophyte squads are acolyte squads. A small squad of 5 acolytes with auto pistols, they have mining weapons that can attack vehicles, they can mine for command points. The hand flamer acolytes can be great screens, they can complete secondary missions, they can sit on objectives, and all of the shooting is supported by 3 Achilles Ridge Runners. All of them have mortars and survey augers, so that even though you're not coming from reserve, you still have Ignore's cover. And the mortar means that regardless of where they are on the table, they can still provide their crossfire bonus. And to finish it all, but really start it all, there are 3 lots of 5 pure strains to stop enemy infiltrators and be a barrier in the early game. This is the Host of Ascension. You deep strike with a lot of units, you need that board space, and you don't want to be overrun in the first 2 turns. With this many bodies, some enemies do not have the volume of fire to defeat that, while your best neophyte squads are able to destroy their best units. Not many enemies are taking that much anti-infantry firepower, especially when you expect to see more tanks in tournament lists at 2,000 points. I'm going to go deeper into the Host of Ascension. That is the next big Genestealer Cult video for Genestealer January. And I've already released the Biosanctic Brood Surge video. My darlings and viewers, have a tournament-tastic day of 40k.